Now, for new grads, it's a challenge because I'm always promoting networking. How do you network when you're at home? Okay, now you have to go to the basic social network. First, the Facebook, the Instagram, those are nice, but goes to nice to have, but it's not a must. Because LinkedIn, for me, is a must. You have to exploit LinkedIn as much as you can. And I go back to one analogy. Connections are like plants. You have to water a plant, meaning you connect, say hi from time to time, because then if you don't do that, the plant is dry and it dies. But if you put too much water, meaning pinging every day, hey, do you know this person? Can you connect me? And say, what? This guy is asking me for every day, 2, 3 connections, jobs, opportunities here and there. And then people, okay, just remove this guy, or maybe they don't answer at all. So that's the opposite, right? Same with the plant. You water too much, it dies. Now you have to use LinkedIn. So people have, I mean, right now I'm mentoring, aside from here, 2 or 3 people because I love mentoring. I do it on the side because I have not, oh, you have the free. No, you organize your time. People say, oh, if I find the time, no, you make your time. It's always like that. You organize your schedule. It's not every day I'm helping everyone. No, it's every 2 weeks, once a month. You arrange your schedule. So that's the same thing with you guys. You have to use LinkedIn, try to find connections. Some people say it's a hard work. Yes, everything is hard, but it's worse if you don't do anything about it. Times start passing by and then you miss a connection. Never underestimate a connection. I don't know if I told that before. An example, say your neighbor works at a small company and you understand, oh, this person can help. And then that person gets a new job at SAP or say Deloitte. And then you miss that connection to be of your friend because that could be the only referral, internal referral within the big company.
Yep.
So that's very important, right? It doesn't mean to make friends with everyone. No. Be wise with your network. And I put some networking events right now. It's Eventbrite, meetup.com or .ca. There's another that is called Internations for expats.
Yeah.
Even though you're studying here, you should consider an expat. You can connect with other people. It's okay. So those are key to start making new connections. And one more thing, even though the Eventbrite used to be for local events, say you're in Vancouver, you go to Vancouver. Now you can register with events in Toronto or vice versa because everything is online.
Yep.
So it's a huge opportunity. Everybody is working remotely. That's another advantage. So you can connect with new people in those events. So you see, there's always a problem, but it depends. Some people see it's an opportunity. So it depends on your perspective.
Yep.
Always look at the problems, but as an opportunity to grow, to start making something better for yourself, maybe advice, tips, maybe landing a new job. You never know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, we're in such a virtual world and COVID has changed so many things, but you're so true. I think it has also opened a lot more opportunities for people to go more global, to apply to any roles because everything is virtual right now. So per se, if someone wants to apply to some role and, you are in a hiring manager role, what would be a few things in an ideal candidate that you would be looking in, like someone who's a fresh graduate and just applying for an entry-level analysis position? What are your few things you think you would look as a hiring manager in that candidate that could make them ideal to enter the industry?
Yeah, people use always the STAR, the situation, task, action, and results. It doesn't matter if you have too much experience or not. If you have a problem, how you resolve it? What's the result? So that's something that shows how confident are with what you do. That's very important because there's so many situations that can change from time to time, and they want to see how to resolve it. I don't like the questions that ask about your weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses, but I think there's a flaw in that area because, it's not fair to ask, oh, I can invent something and then I have prepared a plan to unfold it. So I prefer the STAR because, again, it shows you how you develop when you're talking, especially in consulting, even internal stakeholders. If it's a situation or resolving conflict, how do you manage conflict? That's one thing that is very important. And another one is how you quickly learn something. For instance, I've been to interviews people ask a specific coding technique or one function, something. Really, I can Google that and get an example. This is silly. I mean, to have that on your brain because the person that's asking was recently promoted and they want to brag. Oh, I know more than you. And that's I wouldn't work with a manager to try to show off against you. I mean, they always have, it's like a panhandle. They have the pan from the handle, and they can tweak the interview whatever they want. It's unfair. You have to be reasonable.
Yep.
Because you don't have all the questions or the answers on top of your head. So try to have something to work on. I mean, sometimes there's some questions, and also if you have something that you can sense if that person likes to collaborate, look in the eye. I mean, the Western culture, some people don't like to look in the eye, but anyway, we're here in Canada. We like to look in the eye at the person when you're talking. When you address a person, sometimes a team, there are 4 people in the team. How do you address each one respectfully? And then sometimes whiteboard, try to do the whiteboard, looking at the audience. How do you manage that? Because when you're doing a stakeholder, you're writing a whole whiteboard, nice Einstein definition, everything, but you never look at the audience. The people are looking somewhere else, so you didn't engage the audience. So that's key, because you have to work with teams, and that's very important. That's my style, and I've seen that style. That's what I'm actually, that was hired like CGI, because I explained like that. Didn't want somebody coding. You have the referral, you can have a test if need be, so basic, but I mean, it depends the style, but it's not my style.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, like engaging, as you said, like it becomes such a cultural thing too, of like looking in the eye or speaking up or not. Like there's just so many factors that could affect someone's personality. But I love the STAR method myself and as well. And I think you're right. Like it creates a better opportunity for someone to showcase their skills versus asking about like strengths and weaknesses, because those are all made up, right? And those are not really required when you're actually working. So like someone who's like, for the fresh graduates or even people who are in the industry, are there like a few channels or online blogs or any companies or any like eminent personalities on LinkedIn that you follow or you would advise the students to follow to, keep themselves updated with the new trends of the industry and with the new news in the industry? Like, are there any journals, any newsletter that you read personally that you would advise people to read?
Yeah, there's one that I like. Let me see one, because I follow that. You have to pay, I guess, $5 a month, but it's called Towards Data Science. I think it's a very interesting articles and white papers, and they have examples, and it's like how they share the libraries in GitHub.
Yeah.
Towards Data Science, I love it. Very well explained. It's not a thesis that is 20 pages or 30 pages that you don't understand. No, they're very useful examples that you can use. Also, I like Kaggle competitions. When you say, oh, Kaggle is too no, they have very simple competitions. And they have how, for instance, the results. They have, you're not competing, but you want to see how they develop different techniques, different examples. They use mostly Python, which is very easy to use. And then you can ask. There's some blogs that you can see. People had questions, how they resolve. So there's plenty of information. I like those. And one thing that, again, going back to the meetup.ca, there's so many groups that you can go for. Microsoft Power BI, Tableau, all the tools that you can imagine. And then you can ask questions. Hey, what do you guys follow? And they can tell you a new one that is happening. And then that's why it's very key to go to those meetup or Eventbrite events. Mostly they're free. Try to go, and you always learn something new. For me, that's refreshing to go to those events and see, oh, there's a new tool, there's a new example, and they walk you through. Sometimes they have different sessions. They work phase one, the analysis part. They go to the second part, which is key because then you know the whole process, the whole life cycle. And that's key. It's not programming per se, but why there was a reason to start the project in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, those are great resources. Of course, I'm not really familiar with any of those because I'm not in the industry, but definitely I already see in the comments, like the ones who are, they are like, okay, this is a good resource and they do definitely want to be in it. And for sure, I'll get the proper names with you after and we can link them in our bio for everyone who wants to follow and even the meetup groups. But those are all great resources for people to keep themselves updated, especially in the industry that changes quite very often. I think that's everything that I had from my side that I wanted to ask you. And then just for the closing remark, do you personally think there are like specific companies or specific segments in your industry maybe that are focusing towards per se AI or global or sustainable energies or things like that that are really growing, which students should focus more on so that there's more opportunities, given that with COVID the employment scene is very limited? So are there any companies or industries that you would tell the students to focus on if they're new grads and trying to enter and you think there are plenty of opportunities there?
Well, for instance, the retail industry was hard hit because of the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, the Lululemon is expanding because their business model is actually relaxed and stuff. And it turned out that everybody wants right now yoga pants. It's expensive, but they have the business model like that. One thing, LinkedIn, they have a web page. I think I put it one time. There's always who's hiring. They always refresh that every 1 or 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and different any type of industry, from biotechnology to retail, services, producer, for instance, consulting, for instance, Shopify. Amazon is expanding, I don't know, 100,000 jobs in USA or something. Is insane. So of course, everything that is online, wow, it's massive hit. And that's what I try to encourage people to try to approach network.
Mm-hmm.
There are different networks, and try to ask questions.
Okay.
There's something that is very broad. For instance, PMI, Project Management Institute, is very broad. You can have civil engineering, you have mechanical engineering, anything. So they have meetups, and they have for instance, in Vancouver, they have Toastmasters. In Toronto, they have Toastmasters as well for PMI.
Mm-hmm.
It's one place to go and see, okay, what are these guys talking? Make connections and then ask questions, because the best jobs, they're not published already. Because sometimes the hiring manager, we might start creating the budget for the following year. Now is the best time, because they start the last quarter of this year. Now they know what COVID happened, so they know what money to put for future projects starting January. So this is a good time to start making connections and ask questions about, hey, the budget of your company. How do you guys plan for next year? Oh yeah, we're planning to expand this. Oh, then you start building that relationship. Don't jump, hey, I need a job right now. No. Try to build a relationship, and eventually start asking, hey, can you help me out? We need a job, or can you refer me to a hiring manager or something? So that's one thing that you can know more what's going to happen. This is critical. This last quarter is very important to know what's going to happen for the following year, my opinion.
No, that's golden advice for sure. Like as you said, everyone's planning, everyone's projecting, so this is the right time to understand where their monies are going to be pulled, and that's where the opportunities are going to be lying. So that's great advice. So now I'm going to jump on to the questions, and first I'll just take up the questions that we have in our chat box, and then please, everybody on the line, feel free to jump on and ask any questions that you want to ask. So the first question was from Tanish. The question is, in terms of GitHub profile, how many projects should a candidate have done before applying for a data analyst job?
For me, that's a good question, because so people I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, you can fork many projects in GitHub, and people can claim or piggyback or counterfeit projects and say, oh, I have a portfolio of 20 projects. No, try to make sure something that is original from you. You work hard. That's what I was telling. Try to do the approach to touch base. I mean, maybe it's difficult for the other guys compared to me to say it. I mean, again, try to approach non-profit organization. It could be somebody who's selling something silly like handcraft. Organize the data. You can explore a little bit more and try to have stories to tell from their data. Try to create histograms, anything that can tell the story. Oh, they have been selling for 5 years. You can analyze, and you have everything in GitHub. Oh, this is what I did in R, or this is in Python or Scala. This is the code. This is a web page. This is the code. You can build so many things, even for the mobile app. You can build it so you can show and tell. Oh yeah, so even if it's one small, but you have done yourself, that's enough. Instead of having 20, but because they will catch you if you're telling a lie in IT, sooner or later.
Yeah, quality over quantity for sure.
Yes.
So the next question's from Saiming. She's asking, could you please suggest some Toastmaster groups in Vancouver? There's just so many of them. So do you personally have any preferences or any suggestions?
Yeah, you can. There's one for entrepreneurs in Toastmasters. I can put more information, maybe remind me, because I don't have it on top of my head. I used to belong to PMI Toastmasters, which is one of the, again, key, because project managers, they manage projects. So you know which one to interact with, and then they can refer you. Those are two.
Okay.
Other than that, join any club, Toastmasters. People are so nice. Right now, everything is online. But it's okay. I think it's almost free, I think.
Yeah.
So try to do that. And it's the best place to make mistakes. They always help you, give you nice feedback. For me, it helped me a lot for communication, because I used to organize events in Vancouver for 2 years. So it helped me a lot. And I think that's very key. Yeah, try to go toastmaster.org or approach me, and I can send you a couple of links.
Okay, so the next question again from Samin is, are there any non-for-profit organizations that you recommend in particular that are probably more indulged in IT or which have a bigger name in the industry?
For that question, I have to change a little bit because unfortunately, nonprofits, they don't have any budget, of course. So they don't have IT department. But I was telling you right now is the best time to start, a new startup. Because again, you can get a free account on AWS, Google Cloud Platform, or Azure, and you can build a robust website with all the analytics. Again, try to make sure that there's a privacy on the information. Maybe you can have a scramble information, for personal information,
Yeah.
and it can be used for them for results and stuff, and you can use for your portfolio. There's so many. You can search for nonprofits and again try to make the connection. It's difficult, but it's worth it because then you know how to approach a project.
For
And
sure.
once you make the connections, people start giving you a little bit. Say, "Oh, I'm going to help you guys," or you ask the question, "How do you guys have this type of analysis? How do you do it?" No, everything is manual. Oh, I can help you guys, and then you have the time and you start building something.
For sure. I mean, I guess having those conversations, like that's where you kind of poke up and get the opportunity out for you rather than someone being like, this is your opportunity and we need help and please come help us. Like, I don't think so that works that
No, it's
much.
very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. So the next one is from Tanan, and the question is, how are you leveraging your international experience in the world of IT? Like, I think you did touch base upon that, but you think having an international experience helps you in some way or doesn't really makes a difference? Or like, what do you think is, the idea behind that?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, when you come to Canada, they want, oh, you don't have Canadian experience. That's the excuse. Oh, you're overqualified, but at the same time, you don't have the Canadian experience. So the chicken or the egg again. Yeah, because I have seen people with so much experience from Iran, from Egypt, or even from Hungary, many countries, but they struggle to find a job. Of course, they have a good job position and they don't going to give you the same. So you have to lower yourself and eventually you reach that goal. It's hard, but you have to again
Yes.
try to, that's a very tough question because it's people who are desperate and you need to find the opportunity to make the connection, start, and people trust you. Projects, small contracts, try to go to recruiters. That's why I put people to lower their expectations, going a little bit technical. So, for example, if they have to pick, for instance, you and somebody was born and raised in Canada and they're perfect English and everything, and they have the name John Smith or Susan Smith against my name, so of course that person gets hired. That's why if it's a manager role, but if you lower, more technical, not so many people born in Canada, they don't like to be technical, to be honest. Now there's half of the people on the STEM programs, they're from out of the country or born from newcomers. Or then if you come born from newcomers, maybe 75%. So they have roots somewhere. So that's a good thing for us as an immigrants because you have to focus on technology. That's our strength. If you're a manager role, lower expectations and try something. For instance, that's why I always put something like SQL analysis. Everybody can do SQL and so easy to learn. You start building something, build portfolio, and trying to find a temporary job to have a reference or even a non-profit. So if it's possible, try to go another similar job, entry level, and to a big corporation. And from there you can expand. It's nothing that you can, okay, I'm going to get the first job right away. No, it doesn't work.
No, for sure. Okay, like these were all the questions, and thank you so much for your advice. So now I want to open it up for the floor. So everybody on the call, please feel free to use this time to speak up, ask your questions, introduce yourself to Leo, and we're just gonna take 15 minutes more of your time,
No,
and
no
that's
worries.
all we're gonna take. So yeah, please feel free to use this time, anyone on the call.
Okay, I think I can probably go. Thanks, Nate. So Leo, that I work in technology consulting, and I've worked as a project manager, and this is for a lot of other people as questions for developers or people who want to get into technology, right? Like as data analysts or programmers. What do you think is a very crucial skill when you talk about estimation of effort and contingency planning, given the fact that when you study whatever you study at school, you're like, yeah, code's going to work. How do you ingrain that kind of a skill, and how do you think about these things? How can you break this down?
Yeah, in Agile, there's a term that is called, I forgot the exact name, but for teams, it's called first is the storm performing. Oh, no, you form the team, you start performing. No, the performing at the end. But there's some, you try to find the velocity, how fast you can develop. For instance, to benefit of the audience, in Agile, sometimes we have the sprint zero for a project. Sprint zero means you're going to deliver something in 2 weeks, say, could be 4 weeks maximum. Try to find something that is going to be finished, that is ready to be used by the end user. In that, so you start making some assumptions how much time will you spend on that. And sometimes it's fine tuning. Sometimes you might be overconfident. Oh, this one I can do it in. So this one they use story points. How much story point? If it's 4, depends how you want to calculate. If it's but they try to split in 4 hours for story point, because then you split half a day or a full day instead of putting 1 hour, because 1 hour doesn't exist. You have to test it, you have to document, you have to really prepare for it. So that's why they use 4-hour chunks. And they say, okay, it can take me around 2 days. Maybe it took 3 days, but they start seeing the velocity of you. Maybe you're slower than the other one, more senior. The other one did it in 1.5 days, but then that person can't help the other one for pre-programming. Then so they start, okay, after the sprint 0 comes the retrospective, see what went well. You start analyzing why this one took so long, and you start sensing, okay, this, because it's not about the lines of code that you develop. It could be more complex. There's so many interactions, API, different databases have to do different calls. There was a service that was down, or somebody has to build something on the cloud, or there's a connection, or there's a question that was not properly answered by the SME or the stakeholder. And they have to go back a couple of times until they say, okay, this I get it, but it took almost the full sprint. So that's why the first sprint 0 is key to know more or less how it's going to take. And then you compare the following sprints against the first one. Okay, so this guy, and you can sense, you have always a lead, and they can always adjust the time. Even though you say, oh, this one I can do in 2 days. Say, no, this one is tougher than, it will take you the whole week. Just okay, fine. And they account for, okay,
so,
it will take.
So just as a developer, say for example, if I'm a developer, how do I build this best practice of contingency planning so that I can, probably be like, hey, my estimations are actually, like, these estimations are going to be clearer on the actual work? Or is there like a known risk versus an unknown risk? Can you talk about that stuff? Like, I mean, I feel like that's because if I'm a project manager and somebody tells me some stuff which is technical, I'll be like, yeah, I'll take your word. I'll probably add only 15% contingency. But after 15% contingency, you don't get your work done. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to push you, right? So how do you build those best practices as a developer yourself? And how do you communicate that to your manager or to people in the team?
That's what is very important for teams, collaboration, and have a team lead, because project manager relies on the team leads, because those are the ones that really know. They're more senior, of course, and they're able to guide and coach and see what the weaknesses are for their team members, more junior or intermediate developers. Of course, the more senior, they know very fast. He can tell you right away how much time he will going to spend, or she will going to spend developing something. And that's why you have the daily Scrum meetings to see how things are going. These are very key. Is something stopping you right now? What is it? And resolve it right away. Don't wait until the first 2 weeks. Oh, contingency planning, because then the lead you can change the approach. Okay, the priorities now. Okay, this is not going to get resolved by the end of this 2-week sprint. Let's do this first, because this is very high. This is not going to block us for the following sprint. And then you start falling back all the time. So that's why the daily Scrum is key. Even though you're not, maybe you might not be fully agile, but you know what task you're going to work for the next sprint, and you have the product backlog, and always reprioritize. You have to always, right away if something is not going well. I mean, and then of course something might be slipping away from I'm not going to deliver this feature for this 2 weeks. It might go for the following sprint. But then you start calculating. Okay, then if you need more people for that project, because this one more complicated, and then you start shuffling. Okay, how can we make this thing happen? Because most of the time it's not how many people, how expensive the project is from between sprints, but it doesn't go away in time, because that's, of course, you communicate with stakeholders. Hey, this is going to take, we need more resources because otherwise it's going to slip. There was some things that we didn't encounter. Interfaces, usually there's a roadblock. The problem with interfaces with other applications. So that's why you have to tell external stakeholders or sponsors, steering committee, say, hey, this is going to be, we need another resource to be back on track for the following sprint. Otherwise, it goes away, and then that's really bad for a project. If it's get extended, they want always, okay, this is the goal, this date. Of course, on budget, they want to be on budget, but if they want to be really, really hard on time, they cannot fix stuff in between sprints. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you have. Cool. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I can go next. That's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Leo, this has been amazing. Thank you to Empower International students and Leo for taking out your time. It's been a wonderful session. Just to give a background about me, I just graduated from the data science diploma program at Brainstone. So my first question was basically you did touch upon different job titles there are for data analysts, and if you search for data analyst profiles, it's not, if you just type data analyst, there are very few jobs there, but there are many other jobs there with different titles. So I wanted to know, so that we don't miss out on any of those when we do apply, what are the other job titles that we should look out for?
Sometimes I put people to think about to see the flow of the data. For instance, even for a data scientist, even before analyzing the data, you have to cleanse the data, making sure that where does the data come from. You have to do this called ETL, extract, transform, load, or ELT if it's in the cloud, extract, load, and transform because it's in the cloud. And even at that stage, you have to analyze the data, how good the quality of the data is. For instance, there's an ETL developer, which is very key for the data analysis. Sometimes you have to do that as an analyst. Even in Excel, you have to cleanse, even filtering out. Just filtering out is part of the cleansing. I don't want this part of data. It's useless or it doesn't fit. Or to transform. Oh, they need to be calculated because this one was in British pound and it needs to be in Canadian dollar. I have to do a transformation for the calculation. I have to remove the taxes because it was calculated for these items, or I have to do the transformation. That's key part of the analysis. Even though if you apply for those roles as an ETL programmer or data engineer is another role that you sometimes, for me, I'm mostly data engineer, meaning I do the transformation until the presentation. Sometimes it's a BI consultant. I used to be a business intelligence consultant. Focuses on the presentation layer, but you must know where the data comes from. Sometimes you do even just filtering is part of the process, the analysis. You're filtering data, sometimes you have to deliver. So there's so many types of, if you see the flow of the data, what parts are involved, you always find different names of for the profession that you can fit in. I believe if you really want to excel in this profession, you should know how to go from the source into the presentation and transform all that, because that's sometimes you have to jump in any of type of the roles in between, and you should be able to excel. If you don't have the experience, you can build again. I use the Kaggle competition. You can have the source, the data source is open source, it's free, available anywhere. The weather channel, they have so much, even for the weather, for a stock exchange, there's so much data you can use for free, and you can do the predictions. You can cleanse the data. Oh, I don't want to filter everything that is, say, for the rice producers or any industry. That's part of the filtering. You can say it, and you're telling the story, because when you go to an interview, you can tell, hey, I did this process, and this is what my goal is going to be. I want to have the analysis for the data between these years for this type of industry, and I started taking the source from here. I filtered out this because it was saying Hong Kong dollars, and I included this transformation, and I built this pipeline and the presentation in Tableau or Power BI, and I use Python in between, or Pandas for libraries for cleansing purposes. So you can have so many pieces in between, and again, try to find ETL developer, programmer, data engineer, and go in Indeed. Sometimes in Indeed, looking for that data engineer, they go not of the job description, but the description of the tasks themselves, because they have the name, the hashtag, they have hidden somewhere. And even though you don't see the exact job description, but it shows for the description, oh, this is something that I can do. Financial analyst doing data analyst. I don't know if I answered your question.
Thanks for that answer, Leo. That leads to my second question. You did say that, whatever background we have, we should always, pay respect to that, and sure, when we do go ahead with a career in data, that we incorporate that in some way. I have been working at a bank here for more than a year here before I started studying data science. And my first capstone, actually, I used SQL and Python there to basically help Vancouverites avoid parking tickets. Worked there on that for more than a month. So when I'm looking to add another capstone, another project to my GitHub profile, would you suggest that I go back to the finance field and pick up something to do, for example, with interest rates, mortgages, or do something else altogether? What would you suggest in terms of using languages as well, and what kind of field I should pick up that project on?
That's a good question. Sometimes you can, I don't know if in your network you have somebody that is not related to the same industry. For instance, you can have somebody that is a realtor. Oh, my neighbor is a realtor. And you can ask, hey, what is something that you would like as a realtor to know about your market? Because there's also open data for real estate. So you can ask the question, your subject matter expert will be your neighbor, because he knows a lot about real estate. And then he can have some doubts, or what is the wish list that we would like to have as information? Oh, and say, oh, I wish I had this information so I can do more predictions. And then you can, okay, it doesn't have to be, say, from the same area, but something that is open, but it's serving the purpose for the show and tell that you're going to do, the storytelling that you're going to have. And then you start finding the data and work with your neighbor and try to do working from the source data and to the presentation. And this one would be your portfolio, because you can tell us, oh, there was this person in the real estate industry and they had this problem, because most of the realtors, they're independent. Yeah, they work independently and they have their business numbers, even though they work for Century 21 or something like that, but still they're independent, and you can showcase all the things that you did to resolve this problem, and they can contact him as a reference. And that's, yeah, he showed me, and you can have a conversation with this person if it's he or her, and then that will be also a use case. There could be another type, for instance, the bakery next to your, how is competition? Oh, you can find data from other, maybe other country or something, or maybe try to find something that is related to a person that you already know, and you can build a case for that. It doesn't have to be so fancy or bank or something. No, something that you have kind of have 5 years of data, or extrapolate, maybe do more, and then, oh, you want to grow your business. Okay, how many restaurants you want to build? Oh, I want to build this. And then you're trying to extrapolate, okay, it's a good business or not, predictions. There's so much data that is available, and even with something simple, you can have a nice exploratory analysis to build on. I don't know that you like the idea.
Looks wonderful. Thank you so much, Leo.
Sure.
I do have a question. All right. Yeah, so I'm actually also working in the data pipeline as well. I just want to hear from you, like, what do you see as like the end game, or like the career path of like the data industry? Like for me, like I'm looking into like the CIO, like Chief Information Technology, but like I don't know, like is there any other career path that you think, like if we jump into this area of like data engineer, data analytics, data scientist and all that, what are the career paths, and like what would be the biggest or like the most successful achievement that we can get to?
Good question. Sometimes because when I work at Visier, which is a startup, there are people who are developers, very good developers, and they start moving up the ladder, but they put them in a senior position because of seniority, say VP of engineering. But he was bad managing people or budget. He was very passionate about building or mentoring others. So he has to be put in another role, more of research or something, chief of research, because he didn't want to be in charge of people. He was bad at it. So you have to go back and see for yourself if you like to, even if you think you're good managing people, because the higher you go, no matter, you're going to go put on the side the technical side and become more management. If it's something that you really like, I don't know. You have to ask yourself. Don't need to answer me right now, but it's something I need to ask, because I had that the same. I used to be a project manager because okay, let's try to be a project manager, and I was managing people. For me, it was very difficult because I'm very social, very easygoing. I like the team building activities. I'm not a pusher. Sometimes, as a project manager, part of my work, you have to be an asshole pushing people, because at the end of the day, or the deliverable, if your team screwed up, you have to face the customer, and the customer is going to be very angry, and you have to smile and give all the screaming at you and go back to your team. Hey guys, you screwed up. Don't be so rude, because you need to have management skill. If you're too bad with your team, they might leave. Maybe there's a mistake. You have to really know how to manage your team. In my case, I use team building activities. Okay, let's try to motivate these people. Hey guys, we need to finish this. It was Monday. Just finish by Friday, and then we go party on Saturday. Oh, everybody is working so hard the whole week, 12, 14 hours a day, no complaints, because they want to go party hardy on Saturday. And it was finished by Friday. But again, it depends on your style. But of course, it was when I was working in Argentina or Costa Rica. You can go, oh, let's go to the beach this weekend. But sometimes it's not like that. And I say, oh, because teams are different. So it's something that you have to keep in mind. If you move up the ladder, you become more in manager role. You forget more about the data science, the technical stuff. And if it's something that you like, I don't know. You have to ask your question. I don't need to answer the question, but yeah, you can try if it's something that you don't know, or even try to volunteer in an association. Sometimes there's volunteering to manage teams, and you see how you see yourself.
That's a very good point. Volunteer to manage people. Thanks.
Yes.
I think, does anyone else has any question? Wait. Okay, I think that's everything for today for people on the call. So again, thank you so much, Leo, for like giving so much information. Like for someone as layman, I'm like so obsolete in technology, but still I could understand, and I could gain so much information that I could enter this industry and what it would look like. So thank you so much for taking out the time and answering the question. and being a mentor and doing all the amazing things you're doing for the community. Like, it's only people like you who pay forward that starts this circle that everybody starts paying forward. So thank you so much for taking out the time once again, and everybody on the call, thank you so much for taking out your time and attending our first session. It's first of many, so we're hoping to do more and more. And yeah, Pat, do you have anything you want to add in at the end?
No, I just wanted to say I've been listening the whole time. I am on my phone, so you can't see me right now, but I love everything that you mentioned, Leo, and thank you so much again for sharing such a wonderful insight. I kind of semi-in-tech, so I totally understand, all the things that you mentioned. Maybe not too technical, but your insight has been very helpful for many of us in the past as well. So thank you again for joining for this time, and look forward to being more engaged with you and having you in our mentorship program.
Yeah, one thing that I like to add is that if you want to do something, even though if it looks very small, try to do as best as you can, very professional. I put a small example. When I was living in Florida, a friend of mine asked me to do I don't know if I told you the story, to do a presentation for XML. It was with the CIO, small company, 3 or 4 people, but I did the best presentation that I could have done. Just 1 hour. It was $40 that I get. I could have done it because XML, that was some time ago. So I did the best that I could, and he liked it, the CEO of the small company. And then he called me a couple of weeks later, after my contract was finished in our company, and he wanted me to be as chief security officer, something, writing policies for Latin America. And he said he liked the way I presented it very professionally. And with that, I started a relationship with Tyco for 4 years, meaning that I started traveling. I met so many nice people working 9 different countries, and even something small, like working for 40 hours doing 1 hour presentation. Again, the moral here is that if you want to do something, do the best as you can, because you never know what doors it will open. For me, it was 4 years. I made a lot of money, gained so much experience, and yeah, it was very great story just to share.
Wow, that's a lovely story. I think touched upon so many things, and so true. Like, as they say, you never know who's watching. So make sure you add your best. Okay, so I think we're going to close with this story, because I don't think anything else can top this. Like, that is such an amazing message to close it off with. But again, thank you so much for everyone. And we're going to call it a day with that. And stay tuned for other sessions. And we hope to see you all again soon.
Okay, thanks for
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.